Hello everyone, it's story time again. This is Jeff. How have you all been? I hope you're studying. I hope you're enjoying English. I have a good story for you. This one is a Grimm's fairy tale. It is called The Frog Prince. So keep your ears open and listen very carefully. Well, a long time ago, there was a king who had many daughters, and each one was very, very pretty. But the youngest daughter was the most beautiful of all of them. Even the sun would shine on her differently than the other daughters. She was so beautiful. It was just amazing. And many times, the youngest daughter would go out near the castle in a dark wood. So dark wood means like forest. In a dark wood, she would go and she would play. And if it was especially hot that day, well then she would go and play by the cool well. There's a well, which is a big thing with a bucket inside. She would play by the well. And she had a very beautiful golden ball that she used to play with. So she would be at the well near the old linden tree, and she would play there. And she would take the ball and she would take the ball, throw it into the air, and catch it with her hands. But one time, she was playing with the ball, and suddenly, when she went, she threw it up. And when she went to catch it, it fell into the well. And she looked down into the well. Oh no! You know, because it was her favorite ball. And that was her pastime. Meaning this is what she used to do to enjoy herself in her free time. It was her favorite ball. And she didn't catch it. And it fell into the well. And so she looked down, and it sank. So sink, sank. It began to sink deep to the bottom of the well. And she watched. Oh no, oh no. Ah! And the ball began to sink into the well. So she looked down, right? So what wound up happening to her, how can I say? She looked from the edge of the well, and her ball was gone. So she began to cry. And she cried because this was her favorite ball down at the bottom of the well. So as she cried, she began to weep, meaning cry. She began to weep, and she heard a voice say, "Princess, what is wrong?" Said, "Princess, what is wrong?" She heard this voice. And then she saw it was a frog. Yes, stretching his thick, means big, fat, thick, ugly head. So he was stretching his thick, ugly head out of the water. And she looked at the frog. Ugh, the frog, big frog. Ugh. But she said, "My ball is lost in the well, and I am very, very, very sad." So the frog said, "You have lost your ball. You have lost your ball. If I go to the bottom of the well and I get you your ball, what will you give me?" he asked. "I will get your ball, but what will you give me?" And the princess said, "Oh, everything I have, my clothes, my pearls, my gold, anything you want, if you will please get my ball." Now, the frog said, "Well, you will give me anything, And Princess said, whatever you like. Whatever you like. But, you know, the frog did not want pearls or clothes or her golden crown on her head, her crown. He did not want that. The frog said, well, I would like you to be my playmate. I want you to let me be with you together. Wherever you go, I go. Yes, I would like that very much. So, will you give me that? The frog said. And she thought about it. She said, well, she's thinking. He said, well, let me sit by you. Let me eat from your plate. Let me be with you together, yeah? Drink from your cup. Sleep in your bed. The princess was thinking, frog, eat from my plate, drink from my cup, sit next to me. But I want my ball. I want my ball. Okay, I promise. You can be my playmate, I promise, if you will dive into the well and get my ball. So the frog was very happy, and he started to dive into the well. And he went down deep, 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 deep to the bottom of the well to get her ball. And soon he came up with the ball in his mouth. And of course, she was very, very happy. But the princess was happy to get her ball. But in her mind, she's thinking, this frog is talking nonsense. No meaning. He is talking nonsense. He is just a frog. Asks me to be my playmate, to sit by my side, drink from my cup, eat from my plate, sleep in my bed. Nonsense, she thought. And so, when she got her ball, she started to run off. She started to run off. And the frog said, Princess, wait! Wait! I cannot catch you. But she ran very fast back to the castle, and she closed the door. And she tried to forget about the frog. Yes. Now, the next day, she was eating dinner. She was eating dinner, and she heard a knock on the door. She heard a knock. And her father, the king, wondered. Answer the door. So the princess went to answer the door. And it made her stop. She saw the frog sitting at the door. She closed the door on the frog, and she went back and sat down to eat. And again a knock came. So the frog said, Princess, let me in. You promised me you would be my playmate. You promised me. Now, she went back to the door, opened it again, and closed it in haste. She shut the door in haste, very quickly. Boom! And she went back again and started eating. Now the king asked her, I notice you feel uneasy. I see you feel uneasy. What is the matter, my child? And she said, Father. And he said, is it a giant who has come to attack you? And she said, no. Then what is it? And the princess said, It's a horrid frog. Horrid means ugly. A horrid frog. And the king asked, "What does he want? What does the frog want?" he asked. And the princess said, "Well, he said that if he gave me back my ball, that I would have to promise to be his playmate and let him be with me." And the king knew his daughter was foolish, so he said, "What thou hast promised, thou must keep. You made a promise. You must keep your promise. You cannot break your promise. Let him in now." And of course, the princess had to obey her father. So she opened the door. The frog hopped in. And he waited to sit with the princess. So the princess sat down to eat. The frog said, "Put me in the seat next to you." And the princess, she did not listen to the frog. But the king said, "You promised, put him in the seat now, my daughter." So she had to put him in the seat next to her. And so the frog began to eat from her golden plate. And it was very hard for the princess. She was very unwilling, to keep him next to her. So she pushed him away. But the frog kept coming nearer and nearer and nearer. She moved away, but the frog, he came nearer and nearer. So she was very unhappy and unwilling to have him there. She was unwilling to have him there. The frog. But the frog ate heartily. The frog, with his tongue, he ate heartily. And the princess did not know what to do. He feasted. And so, since the frog had a wonderful feast, he then said to the princess, "Princess, I am now tired, and I want you to take me to bed." And so the princess, still thinking, "I have to take this frog to bed. I don't want to." But her father, the king told her, "Go, keep your promise." So she took the frog upstairs to her room. So once she brought the frog in. The frog said, "Please let me sleep in your bed." And she said, "No, no, no, no." "No," she said. She picked up the frog with her thumb and her finger. She picked him up and she put him in a corner. The bed here. She picked up the frog with her thumb and her finger and put him in a corner. And then she went to sleep. Now the frog was very unhappy by this. So he came over again and he came close and he said, "You must let me sleep in the bed with you." So the princess became very angry. And she grabbed the frog and she said, "Will you be quiet, you horrid little frog?" And she threw the frog with all her strength. With all her strength. Yeah! She threw the frog and he struck a wall. He hit a wall. Bitcha! He hit a wall. Now, as the frog began to fall, he changed into a handsome prince with beautiful, beautiful eyes. Very kind eyes. And what happened is that the prince was put under a spell by an evil witch, and she turned him into a frog. So once he was bound by this curse, he had to stay a frog. But the princess changed him back to a prince. And soon they decided to get married. She saw that he was a handsome prince. She felt badly. "I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry," she said to the prince. And they decided to be married. Soon, the prince's loyal servant Henry came with 8 white horses to pick up the prince and the princess. And Henry had been so sad that his prince, his master, had been turned to a frog, that he had his heart bound, means tied. He had his heart bound with iron, not bars, but like iron circles around his heart so that it would not break. He had his heart bound. Now, when they were riding together, they heard this bing sound. Prince and princess hear this bing sound, and they wonder, "Henry, pop, 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 Henry, has a wheel broken?" And Henry just smiled. He said, "No, it is not a wheel. It's the iron bounds in my heart. They are breaking because the prince has been released from a spell. He has been released from a spell." And Henry was a very, very faithful servant to the prince. Very good servant. He was faithful. And he was so happy that the prince was free, that the iron in his heart broke, and he too was free. And that's the story of the Frog Prince. See you guys next time. Take care.